Hello, my lovely Natsukis. It's been a while. Sorry for the extremely long wait. Last month decided to totally wreck me. If you saw my latest, community post, you'll probably get that. Sorry for the terrible grammar in that, by the way. I meant to correct it, but by the time I posted it, my phone was at 1%. I didn't have a charger, and I totally forgot to correct the grammar afterwards. Yeah, it was chaotic, but I am way better now. I have not had to go to the hospital since then, and hopefully won't for a while. But yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't more severe. I'm glad it was pretty much nothing, and I just needed to get a little help. But yeah, I can't. I was going back listening to some of my old podfics to try and remember the voices, and stop, why was I cringing so bad? No, because I don't know how you guys can stand me. I can be so annoying, but that could also just be because I have a lack of self-awareness. Or, no, I have personality blindness. That's what we should call it. But yeah, I'm just glad to be back. I'm glad I can be back reading. Really missed this. It was one of my favorite pastimes. So sad that I wasn't able to do it for a while. Also, fun fact, I actually recorded the chapter that's gonna be up next Sunday, a little while ago, and haven't had the time to edit it, so most likely the, intro and outro to that are gonna be kind of confusing, possibly, because I don't actually remember what I said in those, so if they're really strange or confusing, that's why. It's because it was recorded a little bit before this and just never got edited because of lack of time. But I'm just so happy to be back. I am so happy to be back. I have literally missed this so much. Yeah. I don't have much more to say other than just so very grateful to be back, and that I'm most likely, if there are no more issues, which I'm hoping to God there aren't, really hoping there aren't any more issues. I'm gonna be so sad if there are. Please, God, no. I will be going back to a regular schedule. Hopefully that lasts more than a single post. But anyways, let's finally get into this. This is part 3, chapter 3 of Married to Winter, a DPXDC podfic written by Corkinavoid and read by Summer Audio. Enjoy! Chapter 3. I have come here to do what I think is right, and you cannot stop me. First impressions on Eternal Frozen? Fucking cold. Jason prayed to the gods he did not believe in to save him from getting frostbite. If he wasn't cursed, he would have probably died already. He knew that very well. If it was Dickwad or Dames, or even Bruce himself, they would have already been frozen to the heart corpses buried under the snow. Him, though? For once, he was grateful for not being entirely human. He sure felt cold, and his fingers curled around the reins were numb to the point where he had to look at them to make sure he was still holding on. Also, he had completely lost any feeling in his legs below the knees. But it was okay. He's close. He can already see the frozen palace. Just a little bit more, and he will be there. Thankfully, the horse he stole from one of the Fae was not very loyal to her previous owner and obeyed him easily, and she was not affected by the blinding blizzard around him, galloping over the snow like it was a fairly flat ground. Granted, it was a Fae horse. Jason shouldn't have expected anything less. A month ago, when Tim was abducted right from the Yule Ball by some elf creature, they had no idea what to do. No way to contact him, no one to answer any questions they had, nothing. Dick was panicking and Babs was searching the library for any kind of information on Fae. Bruce was sending letters to every mage he knew, and when they all claimed there's nothing they could do, he started inviting to the Wayne's castle everyone who had ever mentioned knowing magic. Cass just straight up disappeared, no doubt looking for any kind of answers on her own. Steph was no help. She had her own Duchess stuff to do, and Duke was the one keeping up with the kingdom's duties, effectively taking on the responsibility Bruce had temporarily abandoned in favor of looking for Tim. Damien kept living his life like nothing had happened, but Jason knew he wrote to his mother multiple times. He's seen the League ravens come and go from the castle. 3 weeks later, when they all started losing their hope, Jason decided enough was enough. If they can't contact Fae from this world, he's just going to go back to the Fae world and take his brother back. Sure, he never exactly liked Tim. The boy took his place, and while Jason spent 6 months dead and then over a year in the League, Tim was enjoying his life as a prince. But that doesn't mean some damned creatures can just take him away and never give him back. He is one of the shadows, for fuck's sake. So Jason did exactly what no sane person should ever do. He went to the crossroads in the dead of night on the new moon, and he waited. To be honest, he was not sure it would work. What are the exact chances of a Fae showing up at that exact crossroad on that specific night? But he got lucky, or unlucky. It depends on how you look at it. He met Dullahan, the headless rider, or, well, met is a bit of an exaggeration. He's seen the dark, headless figure riding a horse made of shadows, and he, again, did what no one under any circumstances should ever do. He jumped towards it, and he clung to the horse and all but fist-fought the fucking Dullahan while his horse kept galloping through the night. An experience he will never forget, given he survives the damn snowstorm and makes it to the palace. Oh, the lengths he's willing to go just to save his dumbass sibling. The headless rider threw him off of the headless rider threw him off the horse eventually and left screaming bloody murder. But when Jason stopped seeing stars and glowing circles and was able to breathe again, the scenery around him was not Gotham, nor was it Krypton, Themyscira, or any other palace Jason was familiar with. It was an ancient forest where trees were 5 times wider than him and the grass was greener than he's ever seen it. And most importantly, there were little fairies flying around. Magic forest, right. At least he made it to the Fae realm. His bruised back didn't matter that much, really. He was running on very little resources and information. Sue him, but he wasn't known for thinking his plans through too much. But he had an iron knife, a set of rules for encountering Fae, and an address. The Yule elf said Eternal Frozen, and that sounded like a place. So Jason stood up, looked around, picked a random direction, and started walking. It was not exactly the first time he found himself in a strange place he had no idea how to navigate through. A week later, he was here, on a stolen horse, with new clothes, also stolen, and that same knife he kept on himself at all times. At least no Fae was willing to fight him as long as he had iron on him. They still tried to talk to him sometimes, but Jason kept his mouth shut and didn't look at them, so they quickly fucked off. The palace seemed to get weirdly bigger the closer he was, not just because of the distance. Jason swore that monumental building had a lot less towers when he first noticed it. Overall, it looked like just an ice palace from a fairy tale should look like. White, frozen, beautiful, and deathly cold. Jason buried his nose. He barely felt any more deeper in the fur of his cloak and spurred the horse. As soon as he was on the steps of the palace, the tall, white, and definitely not wooden doors started opening. Well, that is surely surprising. Jason was expecting a fight, not an invitation. But who is he to refuse such generosity? He doesn't bother getting off the horse. He likes to think it is because he doesn't care for the traditions of Fae palaces. But really, it's because he's not even sure he would be able to stand on his legs. Marching right through the doors and into what should be the main hall, it looks absolutely majestic. Columns of clear ice, a giant staircase in the middle, ceilings lost in a snowy mist. But Jason doesn't give two fucks about the architecture right now. At least the blizzard stayed out of the palace, even if the freezing cold did not. "Anybody home?" he asks, as loud as he can with a sore throat. He hears the echoes of his words traveling through the large, empty space. No one answers him for a long moment, and when he is begrudgingly getting ready to either scream again or even try to get off the horse, since he is not sure she will be able to climb up the stairs, he hears a distant sound. Footsteps. They're light and fast, which means someone is running, and they are approaching. Jason makes a huge effort to let go of the reins and reach for his knife. He doesn't know if he could even hold it right now. His fingers feel more like icicles attached to his palms, but he's not going down without a fight. But the figure that shows up from the right hallway on top of the stairs is not one of Fae. It has a similar mop of black hair and is wearing a white blouse with lace sleeves, white waist-high pants, and white boots, and looks like he is not dressed for the weather, if Jason is being honest. Who the fuck made Tim wear laced sleeves, of all things, in this kind of weather? Jay, what in the 7 kingdoms are you doing here? His brother asks, face full of shock and disbelief. As he quickly runs down the stairs towards him, he pauses slightly on the last step, briefly nodding to the horse. "Greetings, one of ancient woods." The horse sighs and stomps her hooves on the ice floor of the hall. Jason looks at his brother with one raised eyebrow. Seems like Timbers went crazy after a month with the Fae. "Rescuing the damsel in distress, which I must say you look very much like." He pointedly throws a glance at his brother's clothes. "Come on, get on the horse. We're going home." "What?" Tim spits out and steps back away from both the horse and Jason. Are you serious?" The question sounds tired and a little puzzled. Not at all what Jason was expecting when he is here, all knight in shining armor, barring the actual armor. But hey, all the ice and snow on his cloak make him very shiny. Jason huffs. "What do you think, Tim?" "Don't!" Tim all but screams, raising one hand as if to stop him. And then, when Jason closes his mouth, continues a lot calmer. "Don't say names here. Call me Crowmind for now." "Crowmind?" Jason feels his eyebrows rise all the way to his hairline. Tim just sighs and pinches the bridge of his nose, his shoulders slumping down. Jason is kind of lost here. He has to admit, this is definitely not what he's been expecting. He's not sure what he was expecting, but not this. Not Tim in some kind of fairy tale prince outfit, and not him greeting a horse. and not him acting like Jason is a nuisance. He feels the anger inside him rise up. No, not right now. He still has a mission. He has to take Tim back. Jason squeezes his eyes shut for a moment and shoves the simmering rage deeper down. Okay, he hears Tim muttering under his breath, and opens his eyes to see him straighten up and look back at the stairs. Maid of Winter. It sounds like a call, and sure enough, a second later, Jason notices a small fairy, the size of a butter knife, appearing out of thin air. He can't really see how it looks, since it's white and kind of glowing, but he's seen enough of them in the past week to know these little fuckers are never up to anything good. But Tim looks at it with barely any emotion on his face, save for a slight annoyance. Heart and soul of Prince of Winter. The fairy bows, or at least Jason thinks it does. Crystal. Tim doesn't bow or even nod at the little creature, just looks at it. Find Prince of Winter. I need him to be in the main hall now. My brother and one of the ancient woods are here. After that, prepare a place of one of ancient woods to rest. He asks. The words sound like an order, sure, but the tone of his voice implies a polite request. The fairy disappears again. Isn't it called a stable? Jason can't help but deadpan. One of ancient woods is the horse. He got that. But why call it a place to rest? What's with the flowery language? Tim throws a short glance at the horse and then turns to Jason, looking absolutely resigned. No. Would you get down? Wait, can you get down? Oh. Now he sounds worried. Jason realizes he is not just merely confused anymore. He lost any kind of sense of what was going on. One thing he suspects, though, Tim is not actually in need of saving if he's just ordering a prince to come where he wants him, like it's not a big deal. But before he can answer, yet another figure appears from the very same right hallway on top of the stairs. And while it is shaped like a person and appears roughly Tim's age, that is the only thing he can call human about it. First, it's white, all of it. Skin, hair, clothes, cape. The only things that are not white are its eyes and a greenish-blue crown floating over its head. But the crown is okay. Jason has seen enough magic artifacts in his life to let that particular thing slide. His eyes, though, look like someone carved out the creature's eyeballs and replaced them with the night sky full of stars. It would have looked beautiful if it was a drawing, but in real life that just looks creepy as fuck. Polaris, when you say brother, you mean... Oh. The creature stops in the middle of the stairs, just staring at Jason without so much as blinking. Tim chuckles quietly. Arcturus. He briefly nods to the Fae and smiles. Way to meet the family, don't you think? No, it's not that. Actually, that can wait. The Fae shakes his head and steps forward, finishing his descent down the stairs and approaching Jason, also nodding to the horse. One of the ancient woods. The horse stomps her hooves again. Jason wonders if it's actually not a horse. Now that he can see the prince, since who else could it be, closely, he notices that not all of its clothes are white. His shirt is actually gray and kind of shimmery, and the cape is made out of the same lace as Tim's sleeves, reminding Jason of frost patterns on the wind. I am Wayward Star, Prince of Winter. You may call me by my title. The Fae, that apparently doesn't have a normal name, introduces itself upon approaching. How may I call you? I'm not telling you my name. Jason huffs, leaning back in a useless attempt to stay as far away from the creature as possible. Prince sighs and turns to Tim with a pleading look on his face. Tim rolls his eyes and turns back to Jason. He's not asking for your name. Come up with something, or use one of your fake names. Or I can make up a name for you, if you want to play it extra safe, since I'm already familiar with how all these names work. He explains, and scrunches his nose. And for ancient's sake, get off of the poor one of ancient woods. I bet they hate it here. Eternal Frozen is way too cold for them. Them? Don't tell me this horse is sapient. He stares at Tim with a great amount of disbelief. Very much is. Now get down. I can't, Jason finally admits, not looking at Tim. I don't feel my legs. Did you ride here all the way from where? Tim demands, and Jason snaps. I don't know, a big fucking forest. It didn't have a lot of street signs, you know? And you didn't ask? Wait, did you steal one of Ancient Woods? Tim looks at him like Jason had murdered the Queen of Themyscira, and not just stole a horse. What was I supposed to do? Ask nicely? Jason argues back, throwing his hands up, and Tim groans. Enough. Prince raised his hand, his voice quiet but commanding respect. Polaris, there is no need to worry. Brother to soul and heart of mine, I ask you to stop talking and move for a few minutes. Guards of Winter, take the human guest to the silver parlor. Maids of Winter, bring your warmest furs and tea to the silver parlor and ask Chief of Far Frozen to prepare a remedy and a healing charm for a frozen human and escort him when he arrives. One of Ancient Woods, you are free to go or stay in Eternal Frozen as long as you like. Maids of Winter will be at your service. And everything starts moving at once. The walls of the main hall shift somehow, and Jason feels his jaw drop as two giant ice monsters, being twice his height and made out of glass, clear ice, step out of the walls. They leave holes in places where they came from. So, are they just a part of the room decor here? Jason's mind is racing, generously supplying him with all kinds of stories about Fae stealing humans and turning them into something else. And could these guards have been human once? And what's gonna happen to him? And one of the guards reaches for Jason and picks him up like a child, despite his raspy cries of protest. And the second one holds his hands out, as if trying to mimic some kind of seat. That's where Jason is placed. To be honest, he feels like a twisted version of a king on a throne, only his throne is moving, slowly walking up to the stairs. A carriage throne? A palanquin? Whatever. As soon as he is off the horse, she also starts impeccably changing, and a few moments later, there is a humanoid creature standing in her place. Only their legs are still horse, like a fawn of some kind. Only instead of a human goat, it is a human horse. They are wearing a lot of green, and their hair is the same rowan color as the horse's coat was. After exchanging greetings, it seems Fae greet each other by stating names, which Jason doesn't get at all. With both Prince and Tim, they throw a glance at Jason. He is a little embarrassed by this turn of events, that he can admit. Sure, Fae are not the nicest creatures, but to learn he was literally riding one without letting them rest is... Jason might need to apologize for that later. He doesn't try fighting the guards and the forceful carry only because Tim seems relaxed and completely okay with all that. If he was alone, no amount of promises of healing and caring behavior would have stopped him from throwing his knife at the prince. But no matter how his relationship with Tim was going before, his brother wouldn't have left him to die. At least, Jason hopes he won't. Danny was stressed out, and he had so many reasons for this. It's not like he was nervously vibrating out of his skin out of nowhere. He had Tim's brother in Eternal Frozen, and he really, really wanted to make a good impression. After all, he would have to meet his promised one's whole family after they get married, and he wanted them to deem him worthy of taking Tim's hand in marriage. So having one of his siblings here now was like having a rehearsal for that eventual meeting. And it wasn't exactly going well at the moment. Granted, it was not Danny's fault. The human, who was not entirely human, actually, but the discussion can wait, managed to show up here in the not the worst way possible, but it was definitely close. One of Ancient Woods clicks their tongue. I am Fern Moss, one of Ancient Woods. You may call me by my title. They bow in greeting, their voice calm and light-hearted. I hold no grudges to the Court of Winter for what happened. The human was smart enough to brittle me before I noticed him. It was my mistake. Danny feels a tiny amount of stress being taken off of his shoulders. Good, at least they will not be facing trouble with the Court of Ancient Woods. It was impressive, I must say. Fern Moss continues, then smiles at him. Your brother is a very determined man. I do not enjoy running for days with no rest, but he did not fall asleep once while on my back, keeping watch and treating me no worse than he treated himself. I can respect a good rider. Tim just sighs and inclines his head to one of Ancient Woods, wordlessly expressing his gratitude. Fern Moss laughs, and the sound of it is full of chirping birds and leaves rustling. Tell him if he ever needs a ride, he can call my name. Now I shall leave you. They turn away from both Tim and Danny and head towards the staircase, calling upon maids of winter as they go. Tim turns to Danny, and he sees his own relief mirrored in the eyes of his fiancée. Thank the ancients, he whispers, and Danny nods. Your brother is insanely lucky. And that is true. The man just happened to stumble upon one of the very few fae who are old enough to not take offense to the fact that a human took advantage of them. If they were any less nice, Court of Winter could be risking a very heated argument with Court of Ancient Woods, if not a full-on conflict. Back to the main problem. I take it he has come to your rescue? Danny inquires, offering Tim his elbow, which he takes easily, to Danny's pleasure. As they walk back up the stairs and towards the silver parlor, his fiancée scrunches his nose and makes an indecisive gesture with his free hand. 2 to 1 chance he came to simply take me back. One of the many things Danny likes about Tim is that he has taken to the fae ways of talking like he's been speaking that way his whole life. For a human, the difference between these two statements would not be a big one, but a fae could see all the hidden meanings Tim wants to convey. If he was anyone else, Danny would have thought of it as a coincidence, but it's Tim. He says exactly what he wants to say, and means all that is hidden inside. Rescue means taking one from a situation he does not like to another, more preferable one. Tim's brother came here fully intending on doing so, but he may not be taking into account what Tim actually wants. His mind's set on taking his brother back home, which, judging by his fiancée's wording, is not what he wants. Despite the situation they are in now, and all the various problems that await them behind the doors to Silver Parlor, Danny feels happy. His fiancée actually wants to stay with him. Maybe Everlasting One was not so wrong about this engagement after all. So he opens the doors to the parlor with a smile on his face. And it immediately drops when he sees Tim's brother sitting on the couch with an iron knife in his lap, the furs and the tea untouched. The man is glaring daggers at him, and when his gaze falls upon Tim's hand on Danny's elbow, his brows furrow even more. He looks downright murderous, to be honest. Tim sighs heavily and lets go of his elbow, walking towards his brother and taking the knife from him in one quick motion. The man reacts slowly, most likely due to his limbs being too cold, but he still makes his displeasure known, snapping his head to Tim. "Hey, give that back." "Ground rules, brother." Tim almost slips, no wonder out of habit, as he holds the knife out of the man's reach and steps away from the couch. "No iron, no fighting, and be nice to Arcturus." "Arcturus is a weird-ass name," the man huffs, and Denny has to stop himself from snarling at him right this second. Tim frowns. "Your name is a weird-ass name. Also, don't call him that. He is Prince of Winter for you." He throws the knife to the furthest corner of the room with so much force that it cuts into the wall. Wow, that was... Danny is not sure how to describe it, but he definitely likes it. "Like I'm gonna," starts the man, but Tim just puts his hand over his brother's mouth and holds his lips closed. "No, you're going to listen to me right now. You are in a place where human rules do not apply, but you keep trying to play by them. You have no idea what you are doing, and as for now, it is only luck and prayers that are saving both you and us from getting in some very deep shit." Tim's voice is full of spite and vigor, and Danny is positive he has never seen him like this before. "You've come here less than an hour ago, and the amount of trouble you're already causing is absolutely insane. So please, stop being an asshole and listen to me for once. Jason, Peter, Todd, Wayne." Danny is a fae. Fae do not exactly have a heart like humans do, but nonetheless, he feels his heart, his core, or maybe even his soul, skip a beat. He's seen Tim angry before, but something about watching him verbally attack his own brother makes him swoon so hard he feels himself going dizzy. Maybe it's because Tim is doing it not only for himself, but also for Danny and for the whole Winter Court. Maybe it's because he said us so easily and naturally. Maybe it's because Tim just looks absolutely magnificent when furious. Jason, Danny is not sure if Tim said his name on purpose or just in a spur of the moment, slaps the hand away from his face, and his eyes grow darker like the sky before the storm. "And that's what I get for trying to save you, replacement? How come I'm not allowed to say your name, but you can just go on and full name me, huh, Timothy Drake Wayne?" Tim Blake's clearly taken aback, and Danny stills for a moment before snickering. He tries to hold it back, but the palpable tension and overall heat of the situation only makes it worse, and after a few seconds, he succumbs to his laughter. "Har har, yes, very funny, Arcturus." Tim rolls his eyes, but Danny sees the phantom of a smile in the corner of his lips. "What?" "I know his name," Danny explains to a confused Jason on the couch, and the man blinks at him owlishly before snapping back to Tim. "What? Why are you so surprised? You've just told him yourself," Tim remarks with a hint of mockery in his tone, and falls down to one of the armchairs. "Besides, it's all fair. I also know his name." "Arcturus?" Jason inquires, and Tim looks at him with a barely hidden exasperation. "No, that's a chosen name. And didn't I tell you not to use it like 5 minutes ago?" "But then what am I supposed to call him?" He turns to Danny and looks him in the eyes. "No offense, but Prince of Winter is kind of a long name to say every time." Danny knows he should probably feel offended. Not only is this man talking about him in third person while he is still very much in the room, but he also just casually says things you should probably not say to Fae royalty in their face. But now he can see why Fern Moss took a liking to this human. He is blunt and even rude, but despite that, he is honest, and that's an impressive feat to have and stick to, no matter if you're a fae, a human, or something else. Then you should hear Polaris's full title, he offers with a mischievous smirk, and Tim groans, dropping his face into his hands. Please don't. Jason looks between them, and Danny practically sees the gears turning in his head, and the man grins and tilts his head as if asking Danny to continue, which he does with pleasure. Sitting before you is Guiding Star, Heart and Soul of Prince of Winter, Friend of Wild Hunt, Crowmind, Child of the Winged. He recounts all of Tim's names and titles, except the one name exclusive to him only, and walks to the armchair Tim is sitting in, planting himself on the armrest. Damn, Timbers, how did you even get so many? You've been here for, what, a month? Jason chuckles, and Tim just whines, while Danny attempts at explaining them. Guiding Star is a chosen name. Heart and Soul of Prince of Winter is his official title in Winter Court. Friend of Wild Hunt is a title given to someone who bests any first of Wild Hunt in battle. Crowmind is a personal title, and Child of the Winged is his last name, like yours is Russet Tail. That last one makes both raven-haired humans look at him with a puzzled expression. Danny raises his eyebrows questioningly. I have a fae name? Jason is the first to speak, and Danny tilts his head slightly. It is not a fae name, nor a title. It's your last name, your family name. Humans give them to their children. He frowns, looking between both of them. Did you not know what your family names mean? Wait, so all the last names have a meaning, Tim clarifies, and Jason hums. Let me guess. Wayne means sword of iron and stone. Danny nods to Tim. Yes, they all have meanings, and then turns to Jason and shakes his head. It's only iron and stone. Sword is what we call human kings. Why not just king? There is only one king, and he is married to Queen of the Infinite Realms. Danny shrugs, but Jason still looks confused, so Tim has to provide a little more explanation. Infinite Realms is the name for this world, the Fae world. He's saying Fae don't recognize our kings as kings with a capital K. And before you ask, it is because there are too many of them, and they change too often for Fae liking. What do you mean, too often? Before Jason can finish his sentence, the doors of the silver parlor are opened again, and the massive and very furry figures of Frostbite appear in the doorway. Danny all but beams up at the Furbulg and steps away from his fiancée to greet him. Frostbite. He nods to the Furbulg. So sorry, I really don't know how to pronounce that word. And Chief of Far Frozen nods back. Even though, technically, Danny is of higher rank, chiefs are the ones to rule a part of the court, when princes were the rulers of the court as a whole. Frostbite is one of those who taught and cared for Danny way before he became a prince. Promise of change, the giant answers, ducking his head to come through the doorway. Tim doesn't stand to greet him, but he also nods. Chief of Far Frozen. Crowmind, it's a pleasure to see you doing well. Frostbite smiles brightly, not bothering to hide his teeth. Danny briefly wonders how Jason must feel right now. Furbulg firbolgs are not exactly friendly looking, with all their fur and horns, and Frostbite has an iced, crystal clear arm with his own bones encompassed inside. A short glance in his direction proves Danny's thoughts. Jason is paler than he was before, and his hand is at his hip, right where he must have kept his knife. You said you needed a remedy and a healing charm for a frozen human? Frostbite pointedly doesn't look at Jason, waiting to be introduced, and Danny momentarily panics. They have not come up with a chosen name for the man yet, and to introduce him as Tim's brother would be quite rude. Frostbite is one of the closest advisors, and more than that, he is one of Danny's friends. He deserves to be given more than just a title. This is Undead, brother of mine. Tim comes as a saving grace, and smirks at his brother. You may call him Undead. He is not speaking well. Crow-mind, respectively. Fuck you. Jason snaps, seemingly over the initial shock that Frostbite's appearance cost him. Firbolg nods, slowly and gracefully, and looks at his patient with pity he is not even attempting to hide. I see. He steps closer to Jason and bends down to look at him in the face. I am Frostbite, Chief of Far Frozen. You may call me by my title. Now tell me all that is bothering you as of now. Jason leans back until his back is pressed into the couch cushions, in a weak attempt to stay away from Frostbite's close attention. He did that before, as Danny recalls, when he leaned away from him in the main hall. He never noticed that kind of reaction from Tim or from Valerie, not to mention Jazz or Sam. He must be really not a fan of Faye. Calm down, brother. Chief of Far Frozen is the best healer in Winter Court. Tim stands from his armchair and switches to sit next to his brother. He once healed me, despite all my efforts to tell him I was okay. You can't fight his care. If I may, Crowmind, you were not okay. You had a stab wound on your arm, gently argues the Firbolg, and Tim rolls his eyes. Nothing lethal. You had a what? Jason asks incredulously, staring Tim down and seemingly forgetting to stay away from Frostbite. Oh, now Danny sees what his beautiful and smart fiancé is doing. Every time his brother gets worried or defensive, Tim just throws something at him to distract him from it. A wise tactic. A stab wound to his lower left arm, Frostbite repeats, and makes the coffee table disappear into thin air with a wave of his hand, before sitting on the floor in front of Jason. Now their faces are on the same level. How did that even happen? Now the man turns his accusatory glare to Danny. Did you do that? Both Frostbite and Danny freeze for a moment, and Tim nudges his brother in the side, breathing out slowly. You cannot fathom how wrong it was to ask that. Danny forces himself to step back and get rid of the ice claws on the tips of his fingers. He reminds himself of his own plan to make a good impression and take a deep breath in before smiling at Jason. This time, he does not try to hide his teeth, though. Yes, good impressions are important, but to think he would harm his promised one, that is offensive on so many levels. And not only to him, but also to Tim himself. Humans are known for failing their promises and being untrue to their partners. He starts, knowing his voice sounds more like a blizzard that roars outside the safety of Eternal Frozen, but unable to fully hide how furious he is. But I am no human. I never was. You will not judge me by your morals that shift every time you want them to. Hey, my morals are quite all right, Jason protests, but it lacks the bite to his words. promise of change does not doubt your morals specifically. Frostbite sighs tiredly, like he's had this conversation numerous times before. Judging by the fact that he is known for being the best healer, not only for Fae, but also for humans, maybe he has. You must understand that among Fae, humans are considered less than trustworthy. Now, may I see the damages from the frost of winter? See the damages the frost of winter has done to you. And why is that? Jason briefly looks at Frostbite, and then suddenly starts shedding his clothes. The cloak is off first, and then the man starts trying to untie his shoes, but Tim stops him shortly. No one asked you to take off your clothes. He holds Jason's hand by the wrist and sighs. To answer your question, think about all the many stories of people tricking the Fae that you've heard in your life. And also, what you're doing now is a prime example. What did Chief of Farfrozen ask you? Tim sounds a lot like he is speaking to a child. Jason bristles. If he may see the damages. So I'm showing it. Jason wonders if all humans are able to make this kind of connection between one and the other, because that seems like some kind of magic. Tim sighs and shakes his head. Okay, listen, you don't need to just answer the questions. Don't do stuff no one needs you to do. Jason blinks at him with so much confusion that Danny almost feels the taste for it in the air, but thankfully nods before turning to Frostbite and carefully saying, "You may." Frostbite gives both humans an approving smile and gently pushes his hand onto Jason's knee. It looks almost comical. Bulk's palms cover the legs almost like a blanket. Danny watches the scene for a moment before retreating back to the armchair previously occupied by Tim and all but falling into it. It's not even midday, and he is already tired beyond any limits. He hears the low, soothing voice of Frostbite asking some questions. The brothers answer and bicker between each other. The sound of wind outside the window, the distant crackling of ice somewhere deep down the palace. He feels eternal frozen around him. Knows it like the back of his hand, and the presence of it is calming him down, for which he is grateful. He closes his eyes briefly, checking if Fern Moss is still here, and finds him somewhere in the kitchen. Makes sense. Court of Ancient Woods rarely gets a chance to try winter foods. Arcturus, wake up. Danny opens his eyes to find Tim right in front of him and his palm on his cheek. His fiancée looks a little worried and apologetic, and Danny hurries to smile and nuzzle into his hand, which forces Tim to chuckle. Come on, we need some answers from Prince of Winter. You've asked me before if undead came to rescue me. Can he? Oh, that's right. He must have dozed off in the armchair while Frostbite was treating Tim's brother. But there was a reason he came to the Silver Parlor with Tim in the first place. He murmurs, uncurling from his position in the armchair and rubbing his eyes. Rescuing, yes. He can challenge me to a duel, and if he wins, he can take you back to mortal realm, or wherever he pleases, given that you are willing to go with him. Great, I'm doing that. Let's fight. Jason decides immediately. Danny just stares at him for a moment. The man looks a lot more confident and comfortable than before. No wonder, due to all of his limbs working properly. Frostbite has already left both the parlor and Eternal Frozen, as far as Danny feels, which means the human should be all well and healed now. But even being in his best shape won't be enough for him to even have a chance of winning against Danny. Tim seems to know that as well because he throws a small couch pillow at his brother. No, you're not.
But he said I can, and there's no chance I'm leaving you here. So I only see one way this can go. If he likes you as much as you say he does, he can always just let me win and let you go. Jason catches the pillow in the air and sets it aside. Danny is not yet awake enough to hold himself back, so he bares his teeth and growls at the man. The insolence. Jason bares his teeth back, his canines noticeably longer than human ones. Okay, stop, both of you. No one is fighting now, and you, he points at his brother, shut up. He turns to Danny and just looks at him for a few moments, not saying a word, and Danny retreats. He closes his mouth and stops glaring at Jason, and instead he looks at his fiancée in the eyes and pointedly doesn't pay any attention to the foolish man on the couch. He knows this look on Tim's face. It's a look that means, I want to talk to you, but I won't do it until you are ready to listen. So Danny sits up, takes a deep, calming breath, and focuses himself only on Tim. You never told me this was an option when I came here. He quickly glances back to Jason, who is clearly about to add his own commentary. Not a fucking word, undead. And back to Danny. So I want you to explain how the challenge and winning my freedom in a duel works. Danny nods. From the very beginning they go. If the Promised One's family is not satisfied with the proposal or deems it unworthy, unsuitable, or inappropriate, they can challenge the promise. Both families choose one member to represent them, although usually it's the, groom-to-be and whoever the Promised One's family member chooses to battle them. I never mentioned it due to the dueling code. The opponents must be of the same power levels, and no human can be on the same level as even a lesser fae. I knew you had no mages, warlocks, or witches in your family, so I did not see a reason to mention it. Tim stays quiet for a moment, lost in his thoughts. Jason huffs from behind him, showing his disdain, but thankfully doesn't say a word. Why did you mention it now, then? His heart and soul asks, narrowing his eyes at Danny, and he glances at Jason. I was not aware you had a dark fae in your family. You've never mentioned it. The what now? This time, Jason is not angry or displeased. He just looks utterly confused. And when Danny looks back at Tim, he notices Tim having the exact same emotion on his face. He looks between the two, and now is also confused. Dark fae, he repeats uncertainly, as the realization dawns on him, and he looks to Jason with wide eyes. Did you not know what you are? Wait, Dark fae, as in Swiftwing, was one. Tim interrupts, making Danny tilt his head and look away, searching for the right words. Yes and no? They're not the same, but they both are dark fae. Like sprites and furbolgs are both fae, but not the same ones. Dark fae are created by humans and are unnatural in their creation. Cotwind was artificially made by a warlock who recreated the birth of a sylph, manually. Undead, on the other hand, looks like he was a human once before someone merged his body with the soul of a fae. So I have a soul of a fae inside me? Jason looks horrified. Danny slowly nods, confirming his words, because isn't that what he just said himself? Does it affect him? Tim's frown is not a disapproving one, but one of worry. Danny understands it. He was similarly worried for his sister when she insisted on living in the mortal realm. So he stands up from his seat and walks to where Jason sits, taking his face into his hands and leaning down until there is merely a few inches between them. Danny looks into his eyes. The eyes are the mirror to one's soul, humans say, not knowing how close to the truth that is. There's a reason Fae do not look at those they are not introduced to, and there's a reason they keep eye contact with those they speak with. You can see all kinds of emotion in the eyes of living beings, even when their faces are just porcelain masks. And Danny sees fear inside Jason's. The man may act brave and cocky all he wants, but Fae do not care for facades. There is no shame in admitting you are afraid of someone stronger than you. Yet this is not what he was looking for, so he reaches deeper, searching through human soul until he finds it is not a full soul, a piece, a shattered fragment, a shadow of who they might have once been. Denny blinks and lets go of Jason's face, stepping back. The man slumps, breathing hastily and heavily, like he was drowning just a second ago. Technically, he was. Humans usually don't do well when Fae reach into their soul. He turns to Tim and shakes his head. No. The fuck you mean no? Then where does the rage come from? Despite his condition, Jason still manages to be snappy. Danny frowns. Rage? He has these episodes where he goes berserk, Tim explains, instead of his brother, and reaches for his own neck in what seems like an unconscious gesture. Usually, he tries to kill someone while at it. We call it rage. Danny chuckles. With Jason's attitude, he has a very good idea where this phenomenon comes from. He tilts his head, looking right into the eyes of Dark Fae. Do you feel it now? Have you felt it at all in my presence? Jason seems thoughtful, but then shakes his head, looking at Danny cautiously. Does this rage of yours only appear when someone offends or disrespects you or one of your family? This makes Jason nod and narrow his eyes suspiciously. Sometimes my friends, too, he adds, and Danny waves it off. If you get offended on their behalf, they are family. He turns to Tim and grins. You should already know what it is, Polaris. You've spoken to more than enough Fae to understand us. He sees the exact moment it clicks in Tim's mind. Oh, ancients, you're a Fae. He turns his head to Jason, sounding enlightened, like he just unlocked the secrets to the universe. Jason just raises an eyebrow. I'm pretty sure I'd notice if I felt a sudden urge to steal children, names, and milk from cows. Danny can't help but snort at that, but Tim only shakes his head. No, I mean, there's a certain way Fae think and talk. It's not like humans, and they have a whole thing about social interactions. It's way more complex than it should be, really, but they tend to take it very personally if you show them or one of their kin disrespect. And apologies don't work here like they work for us. To apologize is to simply acknowledge your mistake, not fix it. Kind of like saying, I will do something to pay you back for my mistake. So if someone apologizes to you, you can call for a favor equal to the level of your offense. Anyways, not the point. If you have a piece of a soul, Danny corrects, and Tim nods, a piece of a Fae soul inside you, that means that pieces can very much take offense. And when no apologies and no paybacks are given, it just seeks revenge. Tim rubs his face, looking somewhere into the distance. Ancients, this makes so much sense now. Even that time when you tried to kill me. Whoa, okay, how about we don't bring that up now? Jason raises his hand placatingly and throws a very worried glance at Danny, who just looks at him questioningly. Why? Well, Jason looks away, his whole posture showing his discomfort, and Tim huffs. He thinks you're going to be mad at him for it. That does make sense. Danny thinks about it for a few seconds. On one side, Jason did attempt to kill his promised one as his fiancée. He could enact revenge on Tim's behalf. But that would also imply he doesn't trust Tim to do that on his own. And on the other hand, the man seems to regret that decision and looks greatly uncomfortable upon a simple mention. More than that, he seems to get more and more nervous the longer it takes for Danny to answer. So he turns to Tim. Do you want me to? His fiancée shrugs. You could, but I don't need you to, he answers, and that is a good enough answer for Danny. He looks back to Jason. Do you plan on attempting to harm Polaris again? No, he all but shouts, and Danny tilts his head. It sounds earnest. Then I have no reason to get mad at you. Polaris can call his own debts and deliver his own vengeance. I'm not his parent nor guardian. They all stay silent for a short while, Jason slowly relaxing, Tim still deep in his thoughts, and Danny waiting for them to continue the conversation. They still have not solved the main issue. Too distracted by Jason's personal problems, not that Danny minds helping him with it. He is Tim's family, and by default, he is now a sort of distant relative to Danny. Also, he is still on the general path of making good impressions. When none of the humans speak for more than 3 minutes, he decides to take the lead. As I said, I never mentioned the option of dueling before because there were no members of your family of equal power. Now, since your brother is a dark fae, he may challenge me and take you back to Gotham. He speaks quietly, effectively returning Tim's attention back to matters at hand. He looks his heart and soul in the eyes, waiting for his answer. He is afraid if he looks away, he will miss the moment when Tim decides on what to do, even though he already knows what that decision is going to be. Tim misses his family, he misses his friends, and human foods, despite Maids of Winter trying really hard to replicate them. He misses the warmth of a fireplace that has no place in Eternal Frozen, the halls of Wayne Castle he told Danny so much about, and his life as the Gotham Prince. He even misses his duties, and that is evident through how Tim took on quite a few responsibilities in Winter Court. Sure, heart and soul of Prince of Winter is expected to work alongside their fiancé and later spouse, but Danny never insisted on Tim doing so. After all, he wanted him to enjoy his stay in Eternal Frozen, not be overwhelmed with papers and unfamiliar laws. Yet Tim said he wanted to do so, wanting to learn and wanted to help, and he was good at it, too. He doesn't blame Tim for wanting to go back. He has no right to, and what's more than that, he understands it. But somewhere deep inside his heart, he really wants Tim to say he doesn't need the duel, to tell Danny he wants to stay. Dark fae or not, my brother is not strong enough to challenge you. Tim doesn't look away, but his gaze is uncertain. Danny inclines his head just slightly, agreeing. That is true, but my sister is human, albeit a little affected by the infinite realms. She is of the same power as undead. She will be representing me if the duel is needed. Tim doesn't take his eyes off him. The icy blue, the color of glaciers and faded winter skies, looks somehow off. Danny doesn't dare look deeper. He doesn't want to know what Tim is feeling right now. But it is not him who answers. What are we waiting for, then? Jason stands up from the couch and stretches. call your sister and let's get this over with. Danny doesn't even glance at him, all his attention on Tim. Tim, who blinks and looks down to the floor. All right, duel it is. End notes. Jason means well, I love him, but Your Honor, sometimes he goes overboard with it. Swiftwind is Danny's new chosen name. She changed it. Congratulations to Swiftwind. Also, Doulahan is Johnny 13. He won't show up again, and this is just my personal fun fact about the fic, but it's him, and his horse is Shadow. And that was part 3, chapter 3 of Married to Winter, a DPXDC podfic written by corkinavoid and read by Summer Audio. I am so happy to be back. It was a long break, I know, 34 days. Well, technically a bit longer for you guys because, I'm recording this about a week before it's gonna go up, just to give me more time to record a few more before it ends up being posted. But I am literally so excited to be back. I have been trying to record, but I have never had enough time until now. And I am so happy about that. So happy. Oh my god, no, because I have been trying to record this and get this out literally the entire month I've been gone. And it has just been disaster after disaster after disaster. And I finally have a break. But yeah, I really do hope you guys enjoyed, because literally the next chapter, I'm pretty sure we're gonna meet Jazz, and I literally love her. Literally, she's amazing in this fic, by the way. You guys are gonna love her. You guys are gonna love her so much. She's just wonderful. And the fight between her and Jason, I won't spoil, don't worry, but the fight between her and Jason is so, fun. I love it. It's amazing. And, I don't know, I can't spoil too much because obviously I can't. But literally, I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Oh my god, it's amazing. I'm probably gonna record the next part, literally right now once I'm done recording this. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed and have a wonderful day. Goodbye!